Brian Krebs, who's a really well-renowned security journalist, wrote a fascinating investigative piece in 2012. And what he found was pretty much what you see on the title here. You can buy access to the soft center of Fortune 500 firms. What Brian found was underground services where for a very small fee you could buy access to compromised machines that sat within corporate networks. So within the perimeter, within that hard shell, and you pay a few bucks and now you have access to it. In fact, Brian has a really interesting image on this story, and it's this one. He found that you could buy access to Cisco's network for $4.55. What we're actually looking at here is one of the images from this underground marketplace. And we can see towards the bottom in the yellow, we've got a seller who looks like they have a very positive rating. They're selling a server in San Jose, California in the US. It's a Windows Server 2003 machine. It's got an Intel Xeon processor, a couple of gigabytes of memory, and various other stats, including that price toward the bottom right, which is $4.55 for remote desktop access to the machine. This is not a secure perimeter when access to the network is up for sale for just a few bucks. But how does this actually happen? How do hackers find these machines, gain access to them, and then on-sell that access? Let's have a look at the workflow. So here's a process that plays out every single day. Let's imagine we have our hacker, and what the hacker is doing is they're scanning the web. Now, as big as the web is, scanning it is not necessarily a hard thing, and indeed there are services out there that make it very easy to find pretty much anything connected to the web. We're going to talk about that later on in the course when I cover just how much people don't understand about how the web works. So whether the hacker is scanning the internet themselves or using an existing service which has already done it on their behalf, what they inevitably find is various systems that are connected to the web. Now, very frequently, these systems may be easy to access. So, for example, they may have weak credentials, easily guessed usernames and passwords. They may have default credentials. Many systems come out of the box with the same password, particularly when we talk about devices like webcams. In some cases, they may have no authentication whatsoever. So there are many machines, devices, and other items connected to the web that have no authentication required in order to access and control them. So in this case, the hacker has found these machines, and then they simply turn around and list them on the dark web. We'll talk more about the dark web later on as well, but for now, we'll assume that the hacker is using a public marketplace secreted away in the dark web in order to buy and sell illegally obtained goods. And in this case, that illegally obtained good is access to a private network. This will be sold over and over again because there are plenty of buyers for these sorts of services. Having access to behind the perimeter of a Fortune 500 company can be enormously lucrative to other hackers. This is alarmingly common. And it's just one example of how this belief that everything within the perimeter is safe is really dangerous thinking. Let me give you another example.